I don't give a feck about Mozart or Beethoven or any of them funny name feckers. I'm Pádraig Sullivan. I'm nice.
On March 12th, 2023 Oscars will officially kick off. After viewing the January Oscar nomination list, the Movie Night Extravaganza crew picked a few of them to cover throughout February. That's right, the crew is making a play for Oscar hype. Our first entry is the critically acclaimed Banshees of Inisherin. Banshees of Inisherin was written, directed, and co-produced by Martin McDonagh, the British-English playwright turned filmmaker. Martin McDonagh's plays were known for challenging the modern theater aesthetic with their use of black comedy.
Why? Would you like to kiss Helen, Cripple Billy?
Well, I can't see Helen ever wanting to kiss a boy like me anyways. Can you, Bobby?
No.
But so you'd have took the McCormicks without payment at all?
I would.
McDonagh's first trilogy of plays in the 90s was known as the Leanne Trilogy. All three plays took place in Western Ireland in County Galway, where McDonagh spent his summers as a child.
Is that the one evening out you begrudge me?
Young girls should not be out gallivanting with young fellas.
Young girls, I am 40 years old, for fuck's sake!
The second trilogy were all set in the Aran Islands. The trilogy was left unfinished after McDonagh declined to publish the third play, The Banshees of Inisherin, after claiming it wasn't any good. With that, McDonagh expanded, first to plays that took place outside of Ireland, including one starring Christopher Walken as Sam Rockwell called A Behanding in Spokane.
You fell out of a tree. You must have forgotten that. Of course I don't have any black friends. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you climbing up a tree for in the first place at your age?
That's what I said, isn't it?
A balloon.
Behanding in Spokane was a play about a mysterious man named Carmichael who goes out in search of his missing left hand after it was severed 27 years earlier. Then McDonagh expanded into writing and directing films after feeling like writing plays wasn't connecting with him anymore. In 2006, his first short film, Six Shooter, which was 27 minutes long and starred Brendan Gleeson, won an Academy Award.
Do you have Pringles?
No, we get no call for fancy crisps around here. We have Tato's or we have Ripples.
Don't sell spirits, no?
It's 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, did I ask you what time it was? What I thought I asked you was, do you sell spirits?
From that short film, McDonagh got a deal with Focus Features to write and direct a full-length movie based on a screenplay called In Bruges.
You go right, don't you? You can see it from the doorway. It's a big fucking canal.
All right, Jesus, I just got here, haven't I? Okay, on the count of 1, 2, 3, go, okay?
Okay.
In Bruges starred Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, who would go on to star in Banshees of Inisherin as two London-based Irish hitmen who hide out after accidentally killing a young boy. From there, McDonagh wrote and directed 7 Psychopaths and 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
What these new laws said was, you're still culpable. You're still culpable by the very act of having joined those Crips and those Bloods in the first place. Which got me thinking, Father, that whole type of situation is kind of like you church boys, ain't it?
McDonagh went back to In Bruges stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson for Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh my God. You were gonna kill me.
Oh, you're gonna kill yourself?
What? I'm allowed to.
No, you're not.
What? I'm not allowed to, and you are? How's that fair?
At the most fundamental level, it's a story about Brendan Gleeson's Colin, who decides he no longer wants to be friends with Colin Farrell's Patrick.
I just don't like you no more.
You do like me.
I don't.
You liked me yesterday.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
The backdrop of the sheer isolation of this mythical island of Inisherin is that the Irish Civil War is happening on the mainland. The Civil War means that Inisherin is largely cut off from the outside world, and the relationships between characters on the island become more fundamentally important. Banshees is particularly interesting after another movie about the conflict in Ireland, Belfast, was nominated for awards last year. Belfast was about the Troubles, not the Irish Civil War, but in that film, Kenneth Branagh tried to write a coming-of-age story about growing up as an Ulster Protestant. One of the most amazing things about Banshees is that the running joke is that many of the residents of Inisherin seem almost indifferent about who wins the Irish Civil War.
Who are they executing? The Free State lads are executing a couple of the IRA lads. Or is it the other way around? I find it hard to follow these days. Well, it was so much easier when we was all on the same side and it was just the English we was killing. I think it was. I prefer it. Well, you don't care who's executing who. For 6 bob and a free lunch, I don't care. They're going to be executing you.
But the existence of this conflict adds an almost absurd level of isolation to the character stories. Colm has chosen to reject his lifelong friend in order, or so he claims, to compose music on his fiddle and be free from his dull and pointless conversations. Martin McDonagh wrote the role of Colm for Brendan Gleeson, who is a fiddle player. However, after making that pronouncement, Colm continues to hang out at the local bar and hang out with pretty much everyone else. This shatters Patrick, who is taunted throughout the movie as being one of those good guys, but not a thinker.
Colin was always more of a thinker. Huh? Why, Seffy? I think. Ah, you don't, Porrick. You do it, Porrick. Your sister does, aye. Siobhan does. You're more of a, what is he? You're more one of life's good guys. You're more one of life's good guys, aye.
Patrick lives with his sister Siobhan, who's probably the smartest person on the island, and their donkey, horses, and cows.
It was the 18th century anyway. Mozart, not the 17th.
Colm makes the declaration that if Patrick will not leave him alone, he will chop off a finger from his fiddle-playing hand every time he talks to him.
What I've decided to do is this. I have a set of shears at home, and each time you bother me from this day on, I'll take those shears, and I'll take one of my fingers off with them.
This sets up some very grotesque stakes. I think anyone who has lived in a small town, one that is isolated from everything else, can relate to the sheer isolation and loneliness that is at the core of Banshees, as well as the incredible importance on personal friendships and relationships.
What?
Thinker. Siobhan, you're fighting a little fella. Throw it out, Porrick! I'm not throwing his finger out. It'll get dirt on it.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Britannic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Christina Oakes. When she's not dog sitting, you can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at @cosmopolitics. Throw her some subs on Twitch. Eileen Jones is a film critic at Jacobin, author of FilmSuck USA, and hosts the podcast FilmSuck. I, of course, am your Academy Award nominated host in the supporting role, Forrest Miller. Let's bring out those nominees.
Well done. Well done.
Very nice. Very flash.
I had to use the Bride of Frankenstein picture because it's so good.
Yeah. Because Eileen, your hair looks so different.
I know. That was a better do. I should go back to it, actually.
Welcome back. It's good to have you. It's been a bit.
It has. You all seem to be thriving. I'm glad to see.
I still have 9 fingers.
You can still play the fiddle with those, so that's fine.
I took one off because Andy got off topic.
Oh my god!
And then I was like, all right, I don't have enough. I would have to switch to toes, and then I don't know. I'm not into it.
We wouldn't last an episode.
No, exactly.
Imagine throwing them at the camera, like the webcam, and then you see just blood splash on the webcam, and you're like,
I thought they sounded too loud. I think the sound design was exaggerated there. It really sounded like a whole arm got thrown at the door.
Yeah, it's like wet, and it's like I'm so fascinated by that because I got a friend who does ADR work. Yeah,
I thought you say you have a friend that throws fingers.
That too. A friend that does ADR work. He actually his team won an Emmy for Narcos and has done a bunch of other things as well. But like having seen his setup and then he's like, oh, let's move the sound effects up, things with people clomping around and stuff, and just it's like, oh yeah, well of course you're not going to pick all that up the way you want to when you want to get across the point. But what I think about is who had the assignment of severed finger slapping against a wall or door. Okay, well let's.
I imagine you take a wet carrot.
You don't think a hot dog? I would think a hot dog.
Hot dog. Hot dog fingers very hot this year.
It's got to be
right.
In between the two, because I think a finger is more solid than a hot dog, right? But also, the wetness of it is probably more to do with it.
Oh, you just take a freshly boiled hot dog?
All right.
That's enough hot dog discourse.
Oh, I thought we were talking about everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah,
I know. I would just shift right back into it.
Big year for fingers at the Oscars.
It is big years for donkeys too. EO as well.
Oh, all right.
Which I still have not seen.
I haven't either. I hear it's wonderful. Yeah.
I hear it's great too. I'd love if it was playing anywhere near me because it's not streaming anywhere. That's for damn sure. Yeah. I saw this really early on in the theater. And I'm driving my friend Joe Canada to see it. And I like In Bruges. I was like, oh, In Bruges guy has another movie. Did not like Three Billboards. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was not my favorite movie of that year. So for me, McDonagh's been not super consistent for me. But I loved it. I was blown away by this. This is my second favorite movie of the year, big time. And I got to see it before there was any discourse about it, which is great. And then I was so excited when our good friend in the lower square there, Eileen Jones, wrote that awesome review of it at Jacobin. I was like, hell yes, that's awesome, because I felt like it was a movie that was kind of dying the vine. That people, oh, this is too weird. It's talky, it's hilarious, but it's incredibly dark and jacked up. There's no way that people are going to pay any attention to this. And I was like, oh, well, pleasantly surprised to be wrong about that.
Very Irish. Yeah.
Oh, it's so Irish, dude. Yeah, it's unless it was coming clad in green and with a Thin Lizzy song playing, couldn't be any more Irish.
We'll have to get into the critiques that there's a backlash, a little mini backlash that came out, and it was a lot of people, representing the Irish point of view, saying very, very angry things about how apparently the McDonagh brothers, I didn't even know there were brothers, but there are notoriously bad at representing Ireland, and that they're really London Irish and they didn't really live there, and then they have a completely distorted point of view, and politically they're monsters and so on. So we really need to get into that, because it's been fascinating to read the accounts of the movie from people who hate it.
I mean, it was Is it Catalyst, like the UK Jacobin sister arm or whatever?
Well, I can read I'll read a little mini email I got, which was less hateful than I usually get. If they send it to my UC Berkeley address, it's usually, it's a death threat or something. This is relatively polite. She says, "Hi Eileen, I read your review of McDonagh's Banshees on Jacobin. I was a bit surprised at the go see it positivity. In Ireland, in left-wing circles, McDonagh is considered reactionary for obvious reasons. The film might be beautiful, but its politics are odious. Perhaps you miss the Irish nuances? This review gives them." And then she cites something that appears on a site called Film Dublin by a guy named Luke Dunn. And he says the opening lines are, "The McDonagh brothers have always been hopeless miserableists, and it's proven to be a lucrative lot in life for them on stage and screen alike. Martin the Younger has drawn many plaudits for his ability to draw from the literary tradition of the island that he's occasionally visited, breathing or perhaps scoffing new life into stuffy old Irish archetypes." And then there's another guy who had a funny one-liner where he describes the opening as you descend through the mist onto the beautiful green countryside, and he says, "Hang on to your flat caps, everyone. Here comes Ireland."
Okay, that's pretty good. That's
a good line. I have to give it to him. And that was in Slate. A guy named Mark O'Donnell in Slate wrote a rip.
So the politics of it. I feel like I think one of the things that makes this work is like the isolation of being on this island and being so distance away from the fighting works because it's distant. They're in their own world. Like, even though it's like just across the water, it's happening like another planet, basically.
It's also not the Troubles. It's since it's the Irish Civil War, it's
exactly
a little bit less of a contested space by that point, I think.
Absolutely. And then also the cop, who is a great terrible character, like just the worst. Like, and I said something in the chat about like, I love how he's just the love of the game for the execution, right? Like he just loves a good execution. Like, it doesn't matter who's getting it. He's just the cruelty is the point. He's a cruelty is the point kind of guy. And I feel like that's almost McDonagh getting on the right side of some stuff that I didn't love in Three Billboards, which is which I have no interest in discussing, to be clear.
Yeah, I felt that way about Seven Psychopaths. I hated Seven Psychopaths. So really? I was a little cool on McDonagh myself, but with Banshees, I'm right back.
Politically, like, I don't feel like he's being like, hey, you know what's great? Like Cops and Misery. What?
Well,
no.
In every single movie, he has either a scene or a dialogue about how someone's either killing a cop. The cops are fucking scumbags. He hates cops. Like, literally every Christopher Walken in Seven Psychopaths being like, we don't talk to cops. Fuck cops. Like, every single movie, he makes sure to double down on the fact that that like he hates cops. He's like, I feel like Seven Psychopaths was his true romance. And it's the same kind of line where it's like the guy's like, something you might not know about me. I fucking hate cops. Like,
yeah. No,
right.
Well, you guys know what ACAB stands for, right? Alley cats ate bananas.
That's it. That's it. Right.
Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, but there seems to be a big objection to simply like what's supposed to be a lot of stereotypes about Ireland, and one of the pieces said, a lot of old lads sitting around drinking pints of Guinness. And I thought, well, I was only in Ireland once for a trip, but man, there was a lot of Guinness flowing. Guinness everywhere I went. I mean, I'm like, yes,
it's never explicitly even Guinness, right? Like, he never walks up and is like, yo, let me get a pint of fucking Guinness. And like, like he's never like, I'll pour that Guinness for you right now. Like, it's just they're drinking pints of beer of some kind, but like, I don't think they really ever.
Yeah, it could be Killian's.
That's true. You should never assume. But
yeah, I remember I was in Toronto once, and I was playing the Buffy the Buffy card game with somebody, and this guy comes up just like, it's like, excuse me, are you playing a role playing game? And we're like, yeah, and he's like, I'll be right back. I'm gonna buy you a beer, and he comes back with a pitcher of beer.
Wow.
And so like, yeah, I mean, it's just Ireland.
It's also a very specific class subset of this island, right? Like, they're kind of, I'm not gonna say they're like the dregs of the island. I mean, the one kid is Dominic, but like they're kind of, it's like they're self-sufficient. they're not really working. Nobody on this island is ever really working besides like the cop and the woman who runs the store and the bartenders. Like,
Who's
you know
working
I mean?
on getting into everybody's business, to be clear.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she's like,
why else would you run a small town store? Like that's what you do it for. You want to know the news. When people don't, I hate to know newsy. You know what I mean? Like it's
that's a great
even the Banshee of the movie stopped streaming. So you know.
I love the Nosy Parker character, and she's so well written. Where like she just gets like her indignance is like not feigned, like it's very real. Of just like no, like this is what I live for. I live for this drama, and you're failing me right now.
I love the that's not good news. That like
shite
like
news.
For it. Yeah, that's shite news.
She's got a scale. She's like, you know, that's acceptable, that isn't, etc., etc. And
he's like, oh well, the cop beats up his kids, or this kid, and she's like, you know what? Every cop beats up his kid. That's not.
Yeah, exactly. She's not impressed by that at all. But like when Carrie Condon's character gets the job offer, she's like, oh, job offer is it?
Like that's so like she's somehow gotten herself as the person. The only place you can get your mail is through her.
It's
the one person that opens up all the fucking mail. There's no way to like stop your mail from getting opened up because it only ever goes to that one woman.
And it's just like the cost of doing business for like getting communication, which again, I actually like that it's not immediately discernible until you literally see a calendar what year this takes place in.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear it's a period piece, but like, well, when is this exactly? And then you actually see
it comes up.
You see the calendar, and then it's like, okay, cool, now I get it. But like it's kind of has a bit of a, obviously it's not modern era, but it's something of a timeless quality where like, look, living on like a remote island, you know, until like modern technology, like probably not that much different through like many epochs of time. And I think this gets that across big time. And you get little fevered egos and petty despots like that. Well, of course you do. Where else are you gonna go? There's nowhere else you can like send your mail to. There's no other post office.
Well, and the other thing is that the Irish Civil War as a backdrop is only really serves to like play up the isolation they're all feeling on this island, because you literally just can't get to the mainland. Like you're just
it's happening over there. You know,
and the fact that you can kind of hear it, and every time like it puts their isolation into perspective, that like you remember like, no, this is like not that far away from the mainland, but like they're fucking trapped there. Like this is like a almost like Survivor thing. I mean, the war is dying down, you can finally go to the mainland, but like it's a big deal. Like the guy has to iron his shirt. He has one shirt. He has to get it ironed before he goes. Like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
You want to look good for your execution. You know, not your execution, but you know what I mean? Like when you go to an execution, you want to dress to the nines.
Exactly. Really, it's a social event of the month when you're in an island.
There's something about like a big historical moment going on, and then playing up like the fact that you're looking at characters who are just not involved with that whatsoever. Because you want all of your characters, like I just like the linear way I think our minds work at this day and age, you know what I mean, with like, you know, the information brain. You're like, oh, everyone has to have an opinion on everything. And for them to be like sitting on this island like, oh no, I don't have an opinion about who wins this conflict, you know, that's going on like 15 miles over there. You're like, oh yeah, like there's only one church on this island, assumably. Like you have to kind of either, you know, get along or fucking get lost or get in a fight with the priest. I don't know. Like,
and the priest doesn't even live on the island.
Oh, doesn't he?
Does he go on a boat? Do you see him on the?
Yeah. He arrives in the boat the one Sunday.
Oh, he does. That's right.
That's right.
Right.
I
know.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
because,
that's right.
Because the best exchanges are, you know, I mean, the best exchanges in terms of the story is like, you know, how's the despair, right? And that's something that's like very real. And I think that one of the reasons why this movie may have connected with people. Well, first of all, it's a very well-made film. This is a well-made film of it's like, you know, there's nobody flying around and, you know, blowing things up. There's no CGI or anything. It's just a well-made film. But
I'm
also
sure that symmetrical goat was CGI, because I've dealt with goats. Goats are not really applied.
All right, time to take off the next finger.
But like it does the small scale despair that comes from living in an isolated environment very well. Like when he's talking to the priest, right? Of which every one of their exchanges is solid gold. You know, it's all awesome because clearly, you know, like the exchange about like punching the cop, amazing.
That was
again. how can you say that he's a reactionary like writer and director when he like literally throws that in there, and it's like one of the best laugh lines in the movie as far as I'm concerned.
Well, one thing they could have argued, but thankfully McDonagh doesn't really let you lean on it too heavily. You could argue that the breakdown of the friendship for reasons that are so obscure is, of course, some sort of metaphorical way of relating it to the Irish Civil War. That there's just something in the Irish character that leads to these ridiculous especially when Siobhan that's it. She can't stand it anymore, and she keeps making totalizing arguments about like, come on, you're a guy. Of course, you're all boring. You're all men on this island.
I connected that more to like living on a tiny fucking small town on your entire
but
life.
I think McDonagh could have made more of it, and I thanked God every minute in the theater that he wasn't making more.
Yeah, that would have weakened the movie. Absolutely,
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, there's no because and you bring up the best points. She's one of the best characters, and one of the things I loved about this film is that for me, I found myself I could identify with like all of the principles. You know, I could, and like in different parts of my life for sure. But like, it was amazing where it's like, get out. Like seriously, like you will like like there's nothing here for you. Like you're too bright to be here, and that's that's always. Anytime you hit themes of that, like I think that's going to be relatable to a certain type of person. But like she's brilliant, right? And she's on this freaking island taking care of her brother, and just generally being resting state of annoyed as the donkey is once again brought into the house. Like and she's right. She's right to leave.
I love the line when she's like reassuring her brother though. And he's like, am I dull? And she's like, no, you're just nice. You're not dull.
Nice. And then she's like, there's duller people on the island. Yeah.
And then, but like that level of insecurity, like I totally get it. But then my favorite line in the entire exchange is when he finally goes, well, I'm at least as smart as you. And she goes, yeah, the fuck you are.
Hard relatable. Yeah. Because she does such a good job of like protecting his feelings and kind of being supportive. And kind of telling him what he needs to hear, but not lying. If you actually listen to what she's saying, it's like she clearly has done this an entire lifetime. And it's one of life's good guys.
What's great about her is she's also this counterpoint to Colm, because he's taking out his anger and frustration of being somebody with some amount of talent. Maybe he's not as smart as she is. But like he is allowing his anger to come out against Podrick, and whereas she is very patient with him, and she doesn't let her anger of the situation of being stuck on the island.
Well, you have to at some point. I mean, she's probably dealt with her whole life, right? I mean, what's she gonna do? Explode?
So is so is Colm.
Yeah, but I think there's something about familial ties where you just there's certain, especially with siblings in a situation like that, where she's almost protective of it, right? But also realizes that he's a bit of a twit too.
Also, assumably, I mean, the parents left everything to Patrick, right? Like, if she leaves, she has to start her life entirely over again. Whereas if he leaves, he owns the house, he owns all the animals. Like, they must have left everything, because when she leaves, she's like, well, all I really have are my books. That's my only personal possession.
Well,
so I mean,
that's definitely an artifact of the times too, for sure. I mean,
but like what I'm saying is like I just think it's kind of interesting that like what Patrick provides in that situation with her deciding to stay at Inisherin, right, is a comfortable place to live. The animals, like a self-sufficient lifestyle. She obviously is more talented, wants more than that for herself, but like it's like comfort. Like when do you finally get uncomfortable enough in a situation where you've been comfortable your whole life to decide to leave it? And I think that that's very relatable for someone like me that lives in a small town and wants to leave, hasn't found like the right opportunity, and the right opportunities just keep passing you by at some point. So I related hard to that, I think.
I mean, not to make it all like autobiographical and stuff, but I mean, I left Modesto, which is basically more common Nebraska than the rest of California, at the age of 17, because I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I literally left as soon as I could. I was like, I don't care where I go. It just needs to not be here. And
small town confessions. I left Lewiston, New York, the second I graduated high school to like get me out of here. So I really related to that. But I loved how artfully the film is constructed, because it starts you off with Podrick. And, it's that wonderful Bulgarian women's choir version of it's a love song that they play in the opening. It's all ecstatic, and he's walking around happy, saying hi to everyone. and it really aligns you with him at first because he's so happy.
Like, oh, here's our protagonist.
He's our guy, and then so when we get it with him, we get confronted by Colm saying, "I just don't like you no more," which is amazing. How kind of gutting that is in movies where we're used to seeing every kind of literal gutting, to have him just suddenly go, "You don't like that." It just seems so shocking. But that how gradually, as you go along, and you're seeing the sister, and you're seeing Colm, you're going like, "Oh yeah, well."
It builds the world, but you're right, because it builds those stakes immediately. Where you're like, "Whoa, you just got tired of him? Jesus Christ, that's horrible!" And it's such a great. Like literally, that's what sold me on seeing in the theater. Was when I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. Like isolated island, and a friend just gets tired of another friend.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to see each other 5 times every day. They're gonna pass each other everywhere they go. It's
honestly,
I've been on both sides of that.
Sometimes like, no offense, I love my mom, but like I clean houses during the day. And even though my mom lives with my grandmother, it's like I spend most of my time with my mother, and like being able to live by myself now, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's McDonagh's first play was actually about that. But then the character, I mean, you saw the beginning of it in there. The character was like 40 and she was still living with her mother, and it's like the breakdown between a mother and a daughter's relationship. That's like his original play. I have a clip that they were talking about at the I guess the Academy Award nominations thing. They're talking about the original script because it started off as a play. Before,
which doesn't surprise me at all. Like, I actually think it's a very well-made movie, but I mean, this is very play-like in the way that the vistas are gorgeous, the direction is actually great, cinematography is beautiful, but like it could just be dudes on and a lady on a stage, and it would still work. I guess it would still work.
The play had nothing really to do with what the movie ended up being about. Like he rewrote the entire thing. I think he scrapped it and just kept the name for the most part. But there was like a shootout in the original and like a bunch of other talks.
See, that was no. I'm just gonna say no to that.
You first read the script, the current script that ultimately was this movie. What was your first take on it, and what was the thing about Porrick that struck you the most?
My first take was concern. Not the answer you're expecting, perhaps. But I had read an earlier incarnation about 7 years before, about 7 years ago. Martin had sent me an email, and he sent Brendan an email saying, "This is something I wrote, something I'm thinking of doing. Tell me what you think." I thought it was great. He says it was shit. He obviously holds himself to a higher standard than I do. I was ready to do that film. Then years later, 5 years later, this version came, and it was the first couple of pages remained the same. Basically, the concept that one friend decided to tell another friend that he didn't like him anymore and that their friendship was dead. That remained the same, but the rest of the script was incredibly different. And Martin went from the one that I read initially being more plot driven, and there was more action scenes and there was shootouts. And to be honest with you, my character was a bit cooler. And it wasn't.
Yeah, he's not cool in this.
I know. And
what's the opposite of cool?
He wasn't as deeply lonely, and he wasn't as. He had a simplicity to him, but he wasn't as simple as lovely Porrick is. And so when I read it, honest to God, I was kind of like, oh my God, how am I gonna? Oh God, it's so. I limped away from reading it. I was ultimately very moved by it because it is, at its core, to me, a story about loneliness and about regret and about community, of course, and it has a certain existential rub at its center. But yeah, concern. Just could I do it and not be dull as dishwater for an hour and a half was basically the issue.
Martin, why did you not like the one that you sent to Colin 7 years ago, the script, and then how did it evolve from something that was maybe a little bit more like In Bruges to something that was much more of a character study?
It was just the things that I like about this one just weren't really there. It focused on. It started off with the breakup, and then just went to, there were outside characters who came in, and it just became plotty and wasn't about the relationship anymore.
It didn't reach the emotional depths that this does.
Yeah, not even close, because it wasn't about the two of you, I think. Yeah. So I'd literally just had forgotten about it, the entire story, scrapped it, and didn't think about it. But then I reread it sort of by accident 3 years ago. and did like the first 5 pages, which are pretty much the same as the first 5 minutes here, but then everything else is new. Everything else is just focusing on the sadness of a breakup, really. And I was sort of in a breakup-y kind of situation back then too, and just trying to explore the sadness of that, you know, as deeply sad as those things can be from both sides, you know, from, you know, in some ways, Brendan's character is in a sad place too, probably not quite as sad as Colin's, but there's often something terribly sad about being in a position where you have to break up with someone too. But none of, I think, the artistic integrity angle was in the original script too, and I think that's kind of what makes this what it is.
I agree with Truckosaurus Rex. Gunplay would have ruined this.
I love Colin Farrell. Like, I feel like
he's so good.
Yes,
he
you have
doesn't get
impure
his
thoughts
due.
about him.
He doesn't get his due as an actor, in my opinion.
So okay, so Christina, do you agree that like he's a really fantastic actor, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he only got credit for being a himbo for like
No.
years.
That's true.
Colin Farrell is a character actor trapped in a leading man's body.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's one of the rarest cases where a man's incredible hotitude and good looks got in the way of his career. It's usually that's the women's role. I watched it happening when he was the second lead in Minority Report. And I was just like, who's that guy? The whole time, not only because he was a hot Irishman, but because he was so good. And but I'm absolutely
that's progress, right? Like now it's not just women who you know, their careers get ruined by their attractiveness. Now men are out here getting their careers ruined by becoming himbos. Like I think that's a level of progress.
And now, you know, he's now the Penguin.
Yeah,
which
right.
When I first heard that was Colin Farrell, I was like, how in the hell could he be the Penguin? And then when I watched the Batman, I was like, holy shit, what the
That was one of
fuck?
the only things I liked about that film, frankly.
And I'm looking forward to the Penguin series that's going to be happening on HBO Max. Like, that's going to be, if anything's going to be good,
I'll watch.
Unless they cancel it after they film it.
Hopefully it's not an hour too long, just like the Batman movie.
Oh,
because
God,
Jesus Christ. Did
I'm
not
still
warrant that
watching
being
the
that
Batman.
long. What do you think you are? Till the end of the world? You're not. Anyway.
I think that you know, I watched a bunch of movies in a row by Martin McDonagh. Like, I mean, I've watched all of them now, I think, this week for this. But I mean, I watched 3 Billboards, not like when it came out, but the other ones I've watched this week. Looking at In Bruges and then looking at this movie and the 2 friendships in between them. You know what I mean? Like between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson both times. It's number one, it's such a different friendship to watch him fucking literally jump out of the bell tower and, like, you know, sacrifice himself to warn him that you know, the boss is coming or whatever. But the other thing I think I think that this movie is so much more emotionally deep than anything else he's really come up with, at least on the screen. I mean, I don't know about stage plays.
This is good. I just want to read this as Stevie. Colin Farrell was in a bunch of dumb movies in the 2000s, which I think caused people to overlook his acting abilities. I think that's it exactly.
Yeah, like Daredevil.
Was he in that?
Was he in that? Oh, I didn't even know.
Bullseye.
Well, what was
I
that?
blocked
What
it
was
from
that?
my memory.
What was that one that was directed by Joel Schumacher?
You think
that
Phone Booth?
Yes, with Kiefer Sutherland, right?
Yes.
That was a good film. It was like probably
really?
the only
Yeah.
good Joel Schumacher film out
But
there.
that one
he was
with Al Pacino was
consistent.
terrible.
He was consistent for a while, and then he was in stuff where it's like, well, he's all right in this, it's fine. And then he started getting really great. And I don't know if it was the type of role he was getting.
Well, I think he had a substance abuse problem.
Yes. He was a notorious partier, like
Yeah.
unashamed, would talk at length about his favorite strippers.
So
and
so literally just like
drugs and strippers.
so literally just like him in all of these movies. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, absolutely. I thought he was
love-
great in Fright Night. You know, I'm probably the only one who saw the remake. Of Fright Night.
I saw that.
Oh yeah, did you?
Yeah.
I thought he was great. He was so funny. He was. Really
I love that he had a friendship with Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, I know.
Isn't that cool? And she dug him because it was like, oh yeah, you know, he reminds me of like a lot of the dudes I used to know, which is amazing, right? And like,
I married half of them.
Yeah,
It's a kind of throwback.
Probably
to
Richard
the
Burton
old,
the most.
yeah, the old.
She's like,
Oliver
if I was
Reed,
5
you
years
know,
younger.
Yeah,
exactly. And good on you, Liz. Good on you.
But
Yeah,
your point about Gleason and Farrell is right. They're such touching friends. No matter here, they're playing such an opposite thing because Gleason is so warm and fatherly that makes In Bruges so touching. That he is looking with this kind of tender concern at Colin Farrell, and so you really feel the impact of
It's the first time I've ever seen a guy whip out a gun, walk up to him, not be able to shoot, and go, "Aw." He really cares about the guy.
It's incredible scene. We should cover that movie too. But I think their history together is what sells like the fact that like again you get the stakes up immediately. Like what? Why does he want to be friends with them? What's the problem? Like and you care. And you care in such a way because there's small, subtle things that they do that it isn't like everyone announcing their actions and all of their motivations, it's like a soliloquy for children.
Which I think says a lot about writing a screenplay specifically for two actors that you know well, rather than kind of writing a screenplay. Yeah, like writing a screenplay and then later on going, oh well, we'll find somebody, and then you go through a lot of people, and a lot of these roles. I mean, actors sometimes make it their own, but like it kind of ends up kind of feeling disconnected from their persona or like who they are or something. This feels very lived in, I think, because he wrote it directly for his friends, and he's like, I want to work with my two friends again. How can I do that? Well, I'll write a screenplay that like he takes their interests into account. Brendan Gleeson, it is a mandolin in the thing that he's playing, but he plays the fiddle, and they wrote the whole fiddle story just for him. Like saying like, I don't know what we're going to do if we don't get Brendan Gleeson as like the one guy I know that could play a fiddle. Like,
yeah. And also Brendan Gleeson's a phenomenal actor too in his own right.
Like, oh my God. He's so
good.
For a lot of us millennials, he'll always be Mad-Eye Mooney in the Harry Potter series.
Right.
He also was the only watchable thing in that atrocious Comey two-part
I didn't see it.
Where he plays Trump, and I was like, I don't want to see anyone portray Trump, but his Trump is like, fuck, that's pretty good, dude. He's the only watchable thing about it. Don't watch it at all.
His son Donald
is
very
gifted.
A phenomenal actor in his own right too.
But I feel like he's just been doing the work for like years, and then like to have him, and I'm sure he's not going to win it, but to get an Oscar nomination this year, that's awesome. I love that. That's great for him, and he's so, Mr. Mercedes. That's a fucking great show, and it's great because of him, man.
Well, and I think they're two very very different types of character actors, but they're kind of two character actors that have like someone like Martin McDonagh can put them in the front and center of it and like use them as leading men. I don't.
He knows how to use them, right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I think they're otherwise they would be character actors. Like they would be kind of shoved into the background or something. They'd be like
Brendan Gleeson has been that guy almost most of his career.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that guy. I like that.
Even in England and fucking Ireland, like when he's in stuff in the UK, it's still like, oh, there's that guy. Like, I mean, Harry Potter's a perfect example. It's like, they're getting pretty much every fucking British and Irish actor and Scottish actor they could possibly find, just like grabbing them up, being like, hey, legacy actor, you want to line it? Like, you want to roll in one of these movies?
Got everybody else.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Gleason is he's so physically formidable that even now that he's an old man, when he goes to knock down that policeman, you're just like, yeah, he would easily. You just don't have any disbelief whatsoever because he's just so hulking and great. And large actors, it seems to me, we don't have enough of them. There's an awful lot of bite-sized actors.
I feel like also there's something with, I mean, the guy's a policeman in this too, but like there's something about guys that are cruel like that a lot of times they can't take a punch. Like a lot of times they've just been walking around being so cruel to people that like nobody, like, he punches Patrick in the face and like, hits him again and stuff. And Patrick doesn't do anything back. You think to yourself, like someone who's cruel like that finds number one, a way to use that cruelty, weaponize it as a career. But also a lot of times people are, just the fact that they're that cruel, they stay away from, getting into scraps with them or whatever. So for him just to turn around and give him one punch and the guy gets knocked down, like it's like, yeah, probably. Like he probably has not gotten punched for like 20 years. Like,
and what I love about that actor, and this is harder to pull off than people realize, he has cop eyes.
Oh, nice.
Like if you know what I'm talking about when I say that, where it's like there's a certain thing that the police officers have where it's just kind of this like disconnect here where it's like, even if they're smiling, it's like, no, you're not smiling. That's not a smile. And I love that he managed to pull that off. And you see that this guy's kind of, this guy's a low-grade psychopath. And that's before you find out what he's doing to Dominic. right? You fight. You're like, oh, this guy is like, you give him a wide berth. Like, of course he's a cop. What else would he be? Serial killer? Probably. I mean, again, as I mentioned, he likes executions just for the love of the game.
Well, there he is.
Yeah,
he's very good.
he does.
He has cop eyes. He definitely has like, or like, well, cop eyes is like, I feel like serial killer eyes are very similar. Like,
There's something.
and both of these, he could be one or the other. Like, you could either find out that this guy in the newspaper was like, oh, he like murdered 3 people and strangled them, or you could find out
a serial killer who actually like stopped for a few years because he became like a security guard.
I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people become serial killers because they couldn't get a job as a cop, like, or like in the military.
That's my fallback. Yeah, that's right. It's cop or serial killer.
But it's just that, I think it's that intensity combined with the vacancy behind his like eyes.
He's a great heel in a movie that doesn't have much in the way of outright villains. It's all like parallax view, right? It's all like, like these everyone has their motivations, everyone has the reasons why they do certain things. But he's a great actual heel where it's like, oh no, that guy just sucks. And like it works out so well because you get a better handle on all the rest of the characters and their journeys and their thought process and their friendships and like lack of friendships and why they can accept and not accept certain things and their motivations for doing so. It's like it's kind of grounded by the fact that like this guy is like this locus of suckitude. And he's so good at it.
And he plays him with the right amount of humanity too. Just enough, because right at the end, right at the end, whenever his son kills himself, he brings that humanity that because I mean people are complex,
exactly,
and does it just the right way, just perfect.
Like you see the humanity that he clearly just doesn't like spend any time cultivating the rest of the time, and it's horrible that it's for that. But like, it's one of the reasons I love this movie because I think that it's notable. Well, and we've barely talked about Barry. I mean, his
let's talk about Barry Keogh. He's so incredible.
Jesus Christ!
It's the first thing I'd ever seen of his. Has he done much? I mean,
he's kind of part of the Green Knight, which we just covered.
Oh, Green Knight. I still haven't seen it.
He was he plays the Joker in the Batman, obviously. So
right. Yeah.
Well, you never see
it. I will say though, I do like how they made him look like as a Joker, like slightly more deformed and not just like clown face. Something like that gives something, but he's got a bright future ahead of him. That's
he's really good. I mean, like, and he basically in the Green Knight, Eileen, he's the guy that like the kid that rolls Dev Patel and steals all this stuff because Dev Patel's just horrible at being a knight, and like this kid.
I gotta watch that.
It's good. It's we covered that adequately. I don't want to.
I guess
it was underrated.
Dunkirk is the first movie he was in.
And I've seen that too.
Dunkirk. I know I've seen him in other things. But,
it was just like every young British person, an Irish person, they get their hands on.
Right.
He is.
It was also in the Eternals, I believe, too.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to forget about that. I think his arc is interesting. Like he's kind of just like, oh yeah, this is just like this kid that's like stuck in this adverse situation. There's no one there his age. There's apparently 3 women on this island. And then, I mean.
We could get at them with our small talk.
Yeah, women. They're women here, good ones.
Yeah. He's so excited about the concept of there being women. It's just like oh my god, dude. Like, yeah. Like,
I don't just the line that like I love the slang in this, and just the line where he's like, I wish we could sit over there next to Colin because then we could get at them with our small talk. And it's like, I've never heard somebody put it like that. That makes it so much weird.
He's so like. He's so thirsty and like starving for it, frankly, but it also has that desperation of that certain age. And again, goes back to the isolation of like the fact that this is a small place with the same, like, like 12 or 13 people you see every day. And like when he approaches Carrie Condon's character and just decides to like lay it all bare. And then like, it's all in the line, right? There goes that dream then. And it's like,
God, that's a killer. It's so well done. Oh my god.
Yeah. And again, as someone who's been on both sides of that over the years, like, devastating.
That's what makes this movie so great, is because everybody gets those moments of like deep humanity, and like a lesser actor would have played him just for comedy, and here he is just just knocking it right out of the park.
But there's
by
the scene where he finally turns on Patrick that can't be played for comedy.
Right.
Like you have to feel in that moment that like number one, that's obviously not who Patrick is. Like he's not like he's even when he's really mean, he's not good at being mean. Like right, like he comes in, he just kicks the door. He's like you fat fucker. Like and he's like yelling at him. Like
he's cosplaying. He's cosplaying being an
he
asshole.
breaks almost immediately. But like for that kid to like realize that you know, he's actually like one of them or whatever, and that's kind of the other moment that leads him to kill himself. Like I don't think you can't, like you'd have to play that with enough humanity that you're like, oh shit, like this is like the last person really leaving, you know, this guy behind, and not really for any good reason, in the sense that I mean he's spiraling after a breakup. Like that happens to everybody that goes through a massive breakup like that for like a while, you know what I mean? Like so it's like he didn't launch this series of events into place, but it's like, yeah, there's a moment where you cross the line and you become somebody else, and he's like maybe this is the new me. And it's like, number one, no, it's not. You couldn't keep this up if you wanted to. Number two, like that's the final break moment where it's like, all right, maybe you just need to reel it in. Like reel it in, you go somewhere else, you know, take 5, like
Go through
don't
your
get
midlife
drunk.
crisis, it'll be fine.
And I love the fact that because of it being the time period that is, there's no like language or lexicon for like any kind of emotional support of any meaningful way, which I think is great. I think it's great because I think that it hits differently now, but it's still relatable in this way, because even though we have all of these avenues and ability to connect, we have all of these things that celebrate the individual without celebrating the needs of the individual, and we have all these connections that have the appearance of friendship without any of the actual depth that we need emotionally to connect.
Well, I love the. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say it celebrates that selfishness where it's like when it is something that talks about your own personal needs, it's like, oh, it's okay to put your own personal needs above everybody else, and I think that that's not an acceptable thing, especially in like a small community like this, where you know, everyone kind of relies on everyone else, has to see everyone else. Like people might be assholes, but you still need that communitarian philosophy that does make people feel at some point grounded, not as isolated. And once those bonds are broken, it's like you're floating in the river. Or the ocean.
Hildy in the chat saying I haven't been able to stop thinking about this movie. Yeah, I had the same when I first saw it. Like I saw it 2 days afterwards. It was like on my mind, which is whether
I also got 2 of his fingers in the mail after you saw it.
Exactly. It's hard to forget, as it turns out.
I love the animal acting, which is primo. I've never seen a movie make better use of animals, especially because
best use of donkey in a serious screenplay.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean,
and the way as you know, it's getting toward the terrible end, and all the animals are starting to cluster. He's bringing them all in the house. You know, the Padre is bringing them all in.
Oh, that scene where it's just like it looks like Dr. Doolittle or something. Where they're
the cows looking through the window, and the horse, and they're all looking mournful, like with what looks like empathy, like they understand and literally don't have the language to say, but they're all gazing at him as if they understand. It's really so beautifully done. Wow, really impressive.
And their one friend is, passed away, you know, the miniature donkey that, it's so cute that it's like his emotional support donkey before that was ever like a concept. Like, you know.
and the connection with the dog. Well, thanks for looking after my dog anyway.
You see that,
or almost.
Whatever dog that is, like that dog is a great actor as well. Like the whole, like you see concern about like, no, I'm gonna take these shears away from you. So
Speaking of phenomenal dog actors, did you guys know that the first Oscars that was ever happened, they were considering giving the Oscar to Rin Tin Tin?
They should have.
That's amazing. I love that.
Justice for Rin Tin Tin.
But they were saying that that Jenny the donkey, like the donkey actress that they picked was a huge prima donna.
Yeah.
Oh, right. She had to have her own trailer. That's great.
There's also some story about how Colin Farrell would run through the island, because they were staying on these 2 different islands to shoot it, and he would run through the island and say hello to every animal he encountered, because he was starting to feel the isolation of living on these islands. So he would run up, and every time he saw any of the farm animals, so there would just be farm animals hanging around as they are on these islands. You know what I mean? Like, still, he was like, "Hi, hello, how's it going?" Like to every fucking animal that he saw on a run across the island.
It's part of your day, and like that gets over. And that's one of the reasons why this movie works is, like, again, the isolation, the fact that like these animals aren't just characters in the story; they're characters in these people's lives.
Yeah.
And they loom large. And again, like I feel like, and it's played for comedy because it's deeply hilarious. But when he's bitching about like him talking about, you know, when Brendan Gleeson's character is bitching about Colin Farrell talking about a pile of feces, and he gets the animal wrong, he feels it an important point of correction.
That's right. That shows how much you were listening.
Yeah, exactly.
He was my pony.
Snap correction. Snap correction.
I know. It's like this show. Yeah.
I felt like it was a show, and I watched the scene where he's like, I don't have enough time for aimless conversation. And he's like, I don't want aimless conversation. I want good, normal conversation. Like, that's how I pitch the show to guests. I'm like, listen, you want to come on for a good normal, not aimless conversation.
Exactly.
They should have had after parties between the two of them. You know what I mean? Like, and then they could have gotten all
could have got it out of their system.
Yeah.
Well, and that hammers home the point that we talked about earlier, that like the incredulity of that Colin Farrell's character has of just like he can't process what he's hearing from his friend. Like he's just like, he just literally doesn't understand. And you kind of see that in real time, and he's trying to like put it together and he can't do it. And it's awesome because he's like, the whole time Brendan Gleeson's just like, I'm more annoyed with you now than I was before the earlier sentence. And that's so relatable to me as well. Because
I mean,
like,
how often have we seen that exact plot with romantic comedies or something?
Sure.
Right? Like a guy can't get over it.
Us,
like
with me.
no, but like a guy can't get over a relationship, and he's he's putting himself on the line. Like he follows a girl somewhere. Like you see that when it's sexual relationships, we perfectly understand that.
You never see it as friendship.
As like,
and that's
really
what's
platonic.
Not adult friendship. I think high schoolers, you see that sometimes, right?
It actually reminds me of Puff's Burgers. Oh God, what's that girl's name that's obsessed with Louise? Molly Shannon.
Oh right.
Her.
Oh shoot. Oh, I can't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that reminds me of
she
that.
stalks her basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's more like a high school drama in a certain way, but you never.
What
see
is he,
that.
12?
Yeah. You never see that with adult friendship, and certainly not male adult friendship too. I think you see a little bit of it sometimes.
Bromance.
Well, if you do, and then it's like people are bumping chests and drinking and getting prostitutes, and like fantastic, good for you. But like just like the sheer concept of like the friendship being the centered piece of it, and then like someone doesn't want to do it, and someone like you never see that. You just don't see that in movies. And if you do, please show them to me because
they kind of parody these thoughts because I mean when he's talking to the priest is like, is it Patrick you're having these these unnatural thoughts about or whatever first, and then there's a line like, what is he 12? Like, you know what I mean? Like pretty much like you guys are acting like little kids pretty much, like you're acting like fucking high school kids. So they parody both of those I think in this. And it's like, nope, that's not what it is, and nope, that's not what it is. Like you know what I mean? It's a adult male friendship that splits apart on an island where there's only you don't have any other people really your age. Like I mean fucking look at fucking Colin. He's hanging out with a cop the next day. He doesn't like that cop.
it's just like another dude that's his age. It's like it's not the guy that literally says everything the bartender says.
Right. Guy doing completely aimless conversation. He's talking to him for 20 minutes about how he's going to the mainland to watch an execution. Like, do you think that conversation is better than anything you were going to get from Patrick? You know what? I'm getting upset all over again because I'm Team Patrick. I am.
Well, let me say I have to put in a word though for Team Colin. Because, one of the gems, I think, of this film is it actually is a little mini portrait of ambition and of how maddening life is when you really want to be serious about any craft, any art, and everything is trying to stop you. Everyone's trying to stop you. And it actually does that really artfully because you're right. Colin isn't in the most obviously sympathetic position. He's really, this is not going to work and it's crazy of him. But if you even have a sliver of ambition yourself, you also recognize it.
If you're an artist, especially, I mean, like I gotta say, like the extreme to which he goes is, obviously, I don't think I'm overselling it by saying like very extreme, but like the wanting to create something of substance while you see your days ahead being much fewer than the days that came before. That's very relatable. And distraction when you're creating, because the muse, such as it is, the creative process, doing good work, when that happens, you don't only have to honor it, you have to lay into it. And if someone's coming there telling you about like, which animal like took like a massive dump the other day, like I can see where you'd be like, get out of my life right now. Like now again, it's more of a permanent thing for you. But then think about how many decades has this been happening? Before we see them, right? And so I think it's very easy to get at Coleman and be like, oh, this guy's a dick. Yes, but again, he's had a whole lifetime of Patrick like talking about his day, and it's like, I don't want to hear about your day. I want to write my song because this is the only way I'll actually live on after I'm gone.
His one song, because he can't ever play the fiddle again.
Well, I mean, you only need the one, I guess. I mean,
well, but he's working with all the young musicians. There's all these implications that maybe he's going to be able to work through them a little bit. But yeah, I just was struck by how artfully that was done. And I read an interesting interview with Martin McDonagh saying it's actually kind of two sides of me that are warring, and that was how I was able to show both sides. Is part of me is like, you asshole, maybe you've only got a little talent, but for God's sake, how old are you now? How much longer do you have? You really should do that. Right. But on the other hand, he's Padraig going, I like to hang around with my friends and have a great time and just be pleasant and nice to everyone. And they don't want to hear about my art or have me go off by myself in a room for 8 hours a day. So
inside you are two banshees. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's no way to cut off, I guess. Like Patrick just comes to his house if he's not there. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to be like, all right, this is my space. Like I need my space, and then I'll meet you out at the bar. Like there's no way to do that because he just shows up and he's like, because they live literally like across the the way from
he just shows up and starts talking, presumably about like whatever's on his mind, which like it is distracting. And it's not to say that like is it fundamentally in the right or anything, but again, you have to approach it with the fact that he's not just talking about interpersonal relationships and his friendship. He's talking about what he considers his legacy and doing something of worth and of note. And you can say that's stupid all you want, but if you actually are an artist, that is something you do think about sometimes.
I don't.
People that say
think,
they don't are full of it, frankly.
I don't think it's stupid whatsoever. I mean, I do like editing. Like I.
You didn't pull the letterbox reviews.
No, like it's not that I think it's not that I think that part of it is stupid. It's the fact that his method is to completely self-destruct.
It's psychopathic. It's
it's more than psychopathic because if the thing you really want is to write your magnum opus, you've screwed yourself. Like what I mean? He's let that petty drama, the 12-year-old boyness of it, I think, overshadow the fact that he ever wants to do anything. He's written the one song, like okay, like that one song is going to be forgotten. Like you have to keep writing stuff, and like I mean, maybe he goes on to be like Dublin's best composer of all time or something, but. We need a follow up, I guess.
Well, and what he's doing, the act of his tirade and his like stamping his feet as an adult human being is destructive towards his creative ends. But he also is at the point where he's almost being nihilistic about it. Like he's got like such just like, I don't even care. I just can't stand with this anymore. And he's caught up in like what clearly is clinical depression as well. And again, ascribing like logical concerns to someone who's coming out from a place like that. That's. I mean, it's never going to hit exactly.
It kind of reminds me.
My mom used to accuse me of biting off my own nose to spite my face. That was the expression she would say as a teenager that I would always do. It's that was the first thing that I thought of when he started taking off his fingers. It's like he's biting off his nose to spite his face.
Yeah. Well, exactly. What were we gonna say, Christina? What was?
Oh, I'm just saying that it kind of reminds me of like how like critics feel about Jordan Peele. They're like, yeah, you're making some good content, but like, when's the masterpiece gonna hit? Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, nope, snubbed as we covered.
Oh, I know that was shocking.
It's just like that was the one that we were most pissed off about. Of like, really?
Oh, me
really?
Too. Yeah,
you got room for Elvis, but not Nope. Come on.
Oh, I know. Sickening. Oh, makes me really.
Jordan Peele said, "Are they going to give me any Oscar nominations?" And they said, "Nope."
I love since we're talking about Combs wanting a desire for his composition to be remembered, right? There's that great scene in the bar where you see Padraig kind of. He gets his Irish up, as they say, and comes at him about it. Makes it like a big public spectacle of it, and like I love like and it's a small thing where it's like, oh well, I actually kind of liked it, but you were interesting. Then.
Oh, I know. That was great. I thought. That was great.
I was trying to point to the Bervoven in my
and like that, like his whole Colin's little exchange there, and like talking about how he just doesn't care about any of those stuff, and it doesn't matter. Like it's actually an interesting argument for artistic merit and like the pretentiousness of thinking that you have the ability to create something important without putting it on the line in that way. But what I love is that you don't see that from Bodrick. He's just pissed off that his friend's being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like but he accidentally makes some great points, which is so great.
But his and I love that he gets totally destroyed by Siobhan right after
Siobhan
that.
regulates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regulates on it. And it's so great. It's so
because this whole thing is like, oh, Mozart, the 17th century, and she's like, you're not even getting the right century. I know.
Yeah.
I'm the smartest person on this island. and you see it again later on when she confronts him. Like once again, she's the smartest person on the island. Like,
she's so good.
like, yeah.
And
the
it's
smartest
like,
and I think most emotionally stable person on the island, which you don't see
the
that
one.
very often.
Yeah. Exactly, smartest, most, and actually has genuine empathy as well, which is considering the sack of psychos that they're hanging around with.
Which assumably is what attracts Dominic to her more than anything to do with his own thirsty teenage thing. Is the thing that he's craving more than anything else is that empathy from somebody, because his dad
certainly not getting it from his dad. Yeah.
Daddy issues.
Yeah,
I think that's more than that's like daddy issues to a level of
well, daddy problems.
when does it turn from an issue to a problem? I don't know. When your dad's a cop, apparently.
But I love that Dominic and hers interactions are so like she's so just annoyed at like that he's around, doesn't like, it's just like, oh, this kid is obnoxious, but she still treats him like with empathy and respect until the point she's like, all right, I'm just gonna leave now and I don't want to talk to you right
now.
Well, when's he gonna be gone? Is he gonna be he's staying? How long is he staying? Oh, he can stay. Oh, can he? Okay, amazing.
I think the moment she realizes what it is, like, you know what I mean, that he's like in love with her and like
she doesn't want to encourage it, but she doesn't want to be horrible about it either. Even when she like dashes his dreams, she's pretty like nice about it. I mean, like, what is there any way she could have handled that better? I mean, like,
that's the moment I think the empathy kicks in, right? Like that's the moment where it's like, oh, this kid isn't just creepy and annoying. Like this kid is, like this kid actually is being like this because he's in love with me, and like obviously I'm never gonna reciprocate that because this is just some dumb kid, but like he's like and
it takes forever to kind of get to the point because he's sort of stealing himself before you get to see that. And again, as a performance, amazing. And then she's just like, oh no.
I love his final thing is, do you think you could ever fall in love with a boy like me? And then she's like, oh no.
It's incredible. And again, it's incredible. And in a year where Top Gun Maverick is a serious Best Picture contender, to have like these kinds of adult performances that
do you
are
think
like,
you could ever fall in love with a Top Gun like me?
No. I don't know how it's going to shake out for who's going to win or whatever, but I mean, I like that
predictions.
All four principals were nominated, and I think that's fantastic. I think if anything, there's going to be some vote splitting as far as that, and like it's Key's year as far as I'm concerned.
We need ranked choice Oscar voting.
Yes,
sure this never happens again.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Also, the people should vote because like the other night on my stream, we were going over the history of award shows and why we have the Oscars. Apparently, Louis B. Mayer won the Beach House, and that's why we have the Oscars. Or like we don't know who's in like the elite club of like organization of who does the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
And all that, how there's like 25,000.
Well, same thing with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's the same. All these things are like shadowy. Like they don't want people to know because they don't want to be leveraged.
Well, the other thing about the Oscars is
critical support for MTV Awards.
It's the Oscars are the your job gives you a pizza party of award shows. Like well, it is because like actors wanted to unionize and like crews wanted to unionize. They weren't allowed to at that point.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, but we'll give you like this nice award.
Yeah, we'll give this prestigious award. It'll be great.
And then we'll have pizza there and like soda. Like, it'll be great.
You'll get like plastic surgery treatments and a swag bag. Great.
They'll get stolen by Michael Imperioli. Maybe that's the problem. So I have one more clip. It's the Taylor Swift interviewing Martin McDonagh. It's a couple minutes.
Director on directors.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, famous director.
I think of them in the same sentence all the time.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I just thought it was funny that they were interviewing each other.
It comes to mind when I think of a female director. No one else. Not Sofia Coppola.
Women Talking by Taylor Swift.
It's such a special film. Watching it with other people, I think it's one of those films that's going to hit home and make people think and make people talk about it afterward, because I've been talking about it ever since. What was
With
it about?
analysts and
we're talking about it right now.
Other friends
So
I hear.
so I've been talking to it about my friends, and one thing I think is that everybody relates more to one of the main characters, whether you're going through like what Colm is going through, or Powerick, or Siobhan. I think it really depends on what you're going through. I talked to a friend of mine who's a therapist, and she was saying if someone brought in this dream to me and said, I had this dream, I don't want to spoil anything, I'm wanting to cut a part of my body off.
It's kind of in the trailer, so you're
okay. So I'm wanting to cut my finger off, and it's all about, she would say it's because you feel like your aliveness is being cut off by a part of your life, and this art represents the fingers. What do you think the fingers is a symbolism for? Is what I'm trying to say.
I know, I just thought it was funny.
Really? You just thought it was funny?
Each time you bother me from this day on, I'll take those shears and I'll take one of my fingers off with them, and I'll give that finger to you until I have no fingers left.
I knew it was dangerous, and I knew it couldn't be a threat towards the other person. And there seems something kind of not artistic about it, but there's something in the self-destructive nature of Brendan Gleeson's character, the artist, that has that. I guess, I don't know if we all have that to a degree, that it's something we're sort of staving off, you know, however we do it to ourselves, if it's through drugs or self-harm or all those things. He had that in him, and he almost had that before the story starts. I talked about it with Brendan Gleeson, and he was wondering whether or not the despair, which is sort of touched upon through the film, is something that we should see, you know, building or manifesting throughout the film. But we kind of came to the decision that he's already sort of been through that before the film starts.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why he has to be so harsh with Colin Farrell's character is that if he doesn't do that, he could die by his own hand anyway.
Wow.
So that kind of explains how tough he's being, because he isn't, I think in those first scenes when he says, I'm just not your friend anymore, will you leave me alone? It's being overly harsh for just to get it through to him. I think things kind of unravel when he's being a bit nicer about it.
So him saying, I don't want to be your friend, is actually the last straw in something that's probably been building for ages.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
A dramatic last straw, yeah. But the fingers thing, the threat of it, you kind of, I didn't know, I never plan out a script beforehand, so I never do a treatment, and I never know what's going to happen from scene to scene. So I was kind of shocked when he came into the pub and made that threat. But after it happened, it kind of throws everything up in the air, and anything could happen after that.
So when you sit down to write a script, you haven't storyboarded the arc of it, you just see what happens.
Yeah, just have like a vague idea of the characters. With this, it was basically, you know, one guy doesn't want to be friends with another guy anymore.
I love how you say you were shocked by it, as if sort of an involuntary thing that came out of your brain without you having anything to do with
totally
it.
Was.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it when that happens. Plot twists like that, if you don't know that they're going to happen, hopefully the audience won't see it coming too. You know the story's going to probably not have a happy ending, not necessarily, or a happy next few scenes.
Yeah.
When something weird like that happens.
That's great. Wow. So Taylor Swift directed a movie? Like what?
She directed her own music video.
Oh my god!
Well, it's not.
Her.
It's not just a music video. She directed like a short film, I guess. I only know this because I watched her hour-long interview with him, and he has to pretend to like.
It actually is a good interview. Like I thought that was interesting. I expected just a goof on it, but like it's good for her. But yeah, I mean, like
Michael Jackson would be happy that people call it short films and not music videos, because that was his big thing about Thriller.
Well, Thriller, yeah, I mean,
well, yeah, but Thriller kind of like breaks the mold as what music videos are.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Michael Jackson moonwalked so Taylor Swift could run, I guess. I mean,
but I think it's interesting in the interview they kind of touch on some of the things we talked about, right? But like, no, there's like a deep river of history behind like these guys' interactions. So when he's coming at him and being like pretty harsh about it, it's like he's just trying to get the point over because he feels like it's going to take a while. And you know what? It does. It does take a while. So he was right to be, even though at first like, why is this guy being such a dick about this? But then you understand, and it's unspools in such a way that again, if you have the ounce of empathy, you can get it from both sides. You can understand the both sides of like however you feel about the extreme nature of like literally cutting off your fingers as self-mutilation as the thing. It makes sense for their motivations, which makes it well-rounded. And I love things that have nuance. And of course, we live in nuanceless times, as Icky the cat there would tell you, who just has jumped out of the chair. And I think this does that very well. Where are you doing? Where are you going?
Yeah, and I think that you kind of you get a nice little snapshot of that when he says that he timed out the conversation between them about the donkey shite, or the horse's shite, whatever whatever animal shite it was,
whatever manner of shite it was. Yeah.
But he's like I timed it the other day. It took 2 hours. Right. So you get an understanding that like aw. you get an understanding that it's not just this one. Or he didn't make this decision, I guess, overnight, right? Like he's been building up to this for a while, and it's like these are like just examples that he's kind of come up with of like, dude, like you talked to me for 2 hours about this, like your things you found in your donkey shite. Like I timed that out the other day. Like you were talking about that for 2 hours with me, and he still doesn't get it because what else is going on with this guy? Besides that, like
his reaction to this will shows how much you were listening. It was a different animal. Yeah. It's not the point, bro.
I mean, we get into the same conversation in chat sometimes though, where it's like,
sure do.
He's like, well, we're like I don't have time for this aimless conversation. He's like, yeah, well, I don't have time to go to your house and try to get you. And he's like, number one, I didn't ask you to. Number two, what else were you doing? And he's like, well, nothing, but I'm still like, I could be doing other things.
I could be busy. Maybe I'm busy.
Name one other thing. And he's like, I don't know, not going to your house.
Yeah, like
reading.
Reading through my donkey shite. Like
well, and I guess we've talked predominantly about the sound effects, but like again, the hard turn towards like, oh wow. Like when he actually does it and you're like, oh, geez. Like it's nuanced because a lot of times things can be a great drama, things can be a great comedy, things can be horrific in their way, but to have all three so eloquently done here, I think is.
And remember how I talked about like Jurassic Park with the scene where they first see the dinosaurs, like how they built up to it. They built up to the finger much the same way because you hear the thump, he goes to the door, he sees them walking away, he goes to shut the door, sees the blood coming down. And then he finds the blood in the flower bed, and so it's like this slow like realization of what just happened, and then he goes in there and he's like what was that? Well, so I can't lie to you, but it's really hard.
And that's where the eloquence and direction shows as well as the writing, because there's a way to do
and
that.
The storyboard artist, shout out to whoever did that.
Yeah. But I think he gets credited as a writer quite a bit, but like very well done, very well done. And again, as you said, like it builds to it, and like you and then you're like, oh wow, oh whoa, and then like Carrie Condon, like when she like just screams, it's like, oh yeah, that's my beam reaction too. Like, oh my god, Jesus.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're doing it as a comic book, you would have this big splash page of the finger in the hand,
the wet finger hitting the door. Yeah.
I mean, also assumably, like if this happened now, like you could just go to the hospital and they would reattach the finger, maybe. Like in this, there's no way to do that. This finger's
he doesn't want to get any. It wasn't any dirt on it. Is that what it is? Because there's that kind of just naive empathy too of like, well, then what? Like, what do you think is going to happen after that? But like, it shows so much about his character that he actually does care about that, which makes it, of course, it's amazing we've got this entire episode without talking about what happens with the fingers and with Jenny, which is where you really get to see Colin Farrell. Yeah, the fingers of death. That is devastating. That is devastating. And then when you see his like honest to goodness rage and the turnaround for that, like it's very earned.
And they set it up in much the same way, I think, where they're having the conversation, him and Dominic, and he's like, wouldn't you like to see him chop off a finger? I bet he couldn't even get through the fat blubber on those fingers. And they set it up during that conversation when he's makes the threat initially.
And then like to have it be in such a, because you know something ominous is going to be happening, like, oh, this can't be good, right? But then you see, and you're like, and you see the trail of fingers, and it's like, oh no. And then the most innocent character in the whole affair, the most objectively altruistic and wonderful best donkey of the year award.
Yeah. It was hard to rewatch that scene, I have to admit. I
It's
had
like
to rewatch it. Like, oh,
it's like a John Wick moment, right? It's like a John Wick moment.
My 2 rewatches, I skipped over that part of it.
yeah, I wanted to.
But you know, I think that they also set it up with the Banshee woman, you know, who's walking down the street and is like, you know, when she's like, one person's gonna die, maybe two deaths or something, and it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, one person is you know, Dominic committing suicide, the other person is, or the other death is Jenny the donkey.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, that's a weird character because at first you're like, is he just like there for the background color? Like, is she important to the story? Like, but
what's fascinating too is like if you're familiar with Jung, which I am not, but apparently Jung wrote about depression.
All right, Patrick, great.
No, there we go. But here we go. He wrote about depression and described it as an old woman in black. And that you'd want to, you know, you don't turn away, you invite her in and have her sit down at the table, which is what they do at the very beginning of the film.
Oh, wow.
So is she depression?
I don't know nothing about Freud or Jung or any of them funny name fuckers.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. That is interesting.
Yeah. No, a little.
I love her. That's a great character. Yeah, that's great. Just because that's such a hard thing to pull off. That whole Banshee, where you have moments where you're like, oh my god, she really is, and you have to almost like
There's a couple times I'm like, oh no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Exactly.
Well, there's that excellent line where he says maybe Banshees still do exist, but instead of you know, shrieking, they just sit back and observe, amused or whatever. And it's like,
exactly.
That's literally what she's been doing the whole movie. Like, I don't, you know, what's the difference between a Banshee and a regular old woman at that point?
Yeah.
It's so what were you saying, Eileen, that like there's a lot, the criticism you're seeing is that it's like grief, what was it, torturous grief as like lifestyle brand kind of criticism, like for this. I don't agree with that. Like I don't even understand. I can't even relate it back to the movie I'm looking at. I'm like, what, did you see a different film? Like, I just feel like, have you seen this world? Have you seen the world that we live in?
And there were like accusations of everyone's kind of the idiot or the gobshite and you're just looking at Colm where he's like living this kind of artist agony, and there's just a kind of ignoring of everything that makes the movie interesting. So it has been bewildering. I read quite a few of the pieces after I got that email just to see, and there were a number of them.
That's really surprising to me.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
I think this is a long-standing tension with McDonagh and, you know, just the Irish. You know,
well, and like there comes a certain, sometimes people just like, I don't like this person's thing, and so I'm predisposed not to like it, and I will look for things that I don't like in it, which happens, I think, unfortunately, too
That's
often.
how I exactly feel about Zack Snyder.
Wow.
Sure. I mean,
well, see, I was thinking more like, you know, like there used to be all this rage directed at the Coen brothers especially early in their career, where they would go to like Texas for Blood Simple or Arizona for Raising Arizona or Fargo for Minnesota, and they apparently would get these angry reactions of like the way that the people were being characterized, saying we don't sound like that, you don't
Minnesota.
understand our authentic character, and the Coens would always be
we
like,
don't talk like that, you know.
Fargo, especially as someone who has played around there tons, they talk exactly like that.
Well,
You sound exactly like this
exactly. And the Coens, of course, were raised in Minnesota, and I used to have kids from Minnesota. I'd show them in my class, and they'd creep up and say, "We sound exactly like that." Us exactly. But I, you know, the Coens would also say about like using Texas. They'd say it's not Texas like you go there right now, though we shot it. The landscape is. It's a kind of Texas of the mind that does have, it emerges out of all of the kind of literature about it and all the kind of films that have been set there and all the, you know, but so it's Texas at a kind of cultural remove. But what's wrong with that? Does everything have to be a searing documentary? I mean, it's
exactly.
bizarre.
We just did Argentina in 1985 at the last minute earlier this week, and like that was one of the biggest complaints. Oh, I'd rather just watch a documentary of this. Then go freaking watch a documentary. This is a film. Like they don't have to be the same thing, man. And do you want it to be a 7-hour film? Because that's what it would need to be to include all the context you apparently.
And then it wouldn't be good.
It would be horrible.
And it'd be the Batman of Argentina movies.
Exactly.
Well, and then
maybe
and,
with better special chemistry though.
Inisherin is not a real place, which kind of makes it interesting. I mean, there are islands.
He is
that
obsessed
are similar,
with locations. He's upset.
But yeah, he is. I mean, every movie is like every movie has a city or like he's probably pissed off that someone used Paris, Texas before he could get to it. But no, like Inisherin is like a mythical island. Like it's not a real island in Ireland, which kind of makes it interesting. Like because it has a long history, I guess, with like, oh, this is something of Inisherin, but like that isn't a place, which is kind of a fascinating way to center the story, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. He's
kind of it is the island of the mind at that point, like like the.
And again, the opening that I described before, where you did that gorgeous, song that's Bulgarian, but you don't know. It just sounds folk-like, and it comes up over this glowing, gorgeous island that matches every tourist dream. It seems like it's kind of consciously evoking.
That Mark Kermode interview is really interesting. Where the first question he asked him is like, "That's a Bulgarian song, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I recognize it." It was like, how did you?
Oh, I can tell you. The Bulgarian women's choir went through a little vote. It was one of those little things that all of a sudden everyone bought it, and it became a kind of weird hit. So I owned it.
Was that in the 90s?
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
Yeah. Because
It was a hit CD of the 90s.
Did something with that.
I worked at a record store when that happened, by the way. So I remember.
So you heard it often.
I was like, why is everyone buying this? Like, why is this the thing?
It was like chant or something.
Yes,
everyone had to buy it.
Wait,
but
Christina's
real
like
quick.
falling asleep. Do we want to?
So two things real quick.
Okay.
One of which is the opening. For me, one of the movies that kind of evoked The Shining. Kubrick's The Shining, where it does the long shots on the
high
way
long
in.
shot. Yeah.
And it gets you the idea of like the loneliness and desperation, how far away it is from everything in a different way. But I think I don't know if that was an homage or just something similar, but I like that quite a bit. And
man, I should have had the IMDb page up for this.
for all castings or for
like just like, did you know? Like,
yeah, I have to be your IMDb page right now. Sorry about that. But and ultimately how this resolves with Patrick like literally burning his house down, and then you see Colm in the house, right? And you're like, oh, it's just he's gonna go out this way.
He's gonna die this way, yeah.
Crazy and ballsy in a way that like I think if this had been like through like a bigger movie company and had like a bigger budget behind it originally. I mean, there's certainly like a lot of attention on it now. Those would be the kind of things like, oh, does he have to be in the house when it's burning? Does he really have to be? Like, yes, yes, he does. Absolutely, yes, he does. It's because it's so powerful.
It's a similar with you.
Right, exactly. That's the level. That's the stakes. Yeah.
7 Psychopaths. Originally, like the dog, a big part of the ending of the movie was that the dog was just going to get shot. Like that was, and the studio wouldn't let him do it. And it feels like with creative control, like he kind of has more of a handle on like, what he can do and what he can't in this movie.
Absolutely. So those are just the things I wanted to shoehorn in before we move on to what I assume is the Letterboxd one-liners, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, Letterboxd is a place for film. It's a place for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the films they love, maybe the films they didn't love, the films that they were so bored by they started cutting off their own fingers at. And, of course, all of this is an open source democracy from the bottom up. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world. This is best expressed succinctly, tightly. Good normal conversation where you're working your tight five. You be funny. You be very Irish about it. It can be about dark things. Of course, these are the Letterboxd one-liners for Banshees of Inisherin. Let's roll them. If it's the same feckin' bread van, I'll kick him.
Apparently, I had a great uncle or something that got run over by a milk truck as a kid.
Oh wow!
Like one of those vans that would go around the same way.
I love that. Wait, go back for a second. I love that. like when he tries on the like, oh, I'm gonna be really wily here, and like he just makes outlandish, easily disprovable lies, which is like so amazing. But it's like, oh, it gets him out of the way immediately, which is literally always thinking about it. I think that says so much about that.
And it's like a joke my grandfather would have told.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it plays like the punchline of a joke, Andy. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Great movie for eyebrows.
Yeah.
Oh, it so is. Colin Farrell's eyebrows have their own stardom at this point.
Yes, they got their own star in the Walk of Fame.
I think they won a Golden Globe. Rooting for Jenny to win the Oscars Best Supporting Actress. Thanks.
Yeah.
Best supporting donkey.
Best supporting donkey in a serious picture.
It's her. it's her. It's it's the other donkey, and then it's the fucking donkey from Shrek.
2023, the year of the donkey.
You're the donkey, apparently. Ghosting was wild back in 1923.
Dude, you see, the thing is though, if you didn't live on a small island, I feel like ghosting could be real easy in like back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would just go to the next town and no one would ever hear from you again.
They wrote books about that. I mean, wasn't that what Wuthering Heights was about?
But because they're stuck on this small like semi-mythical island, they can't ghost each other. They never can.
Yeah, it's true. It was wild indeed. How's the despair is actually a really normal question in 2023.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you feel a little isolated. It's like, damn, this hitting me right here. Like she turns to him, she's like, do you ever get lonely? And my thought was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Actually, yes. We just got over COVID. Like
That's also how I get whenever I try to write a new song.
Writer's block.
Did you write that?
Not every time, but some of the time.
It's so crazy when he finally plays his song and has the kids do it, but he's dripping blood all over the table.
He's actively dripping blood. Yeah.
I got this, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, that's only a little blood. Yeah.
He's like, I can't play, but I can still compose.
Yeah.
And I can wave my bloody stuff around.
As a dull person, this hits close to home.
Oh, a line that I didn't.
You're not dull. You're just nice.
A line that I didn't get to that I wanted to bring up is when we see the calendar or whatever, right? And it's like 1923 or whatever, and like he runs up to him and he's like, you know what month it is? Me, like he's like, me fool you or something. Like he thinks it's an April Fool's joke, but you realize that like it's a big deal that it's like April 1st or whatever. Like that's a big thing for him. And you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy is dull. Like,
that explains. But he found an explanation, right?
Yeah.
So this explains the behavior that I can't understand or accept.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. So it's gonna be forever, or it's gonna go down in flames.
Just flames.
It's all the more. I did not realize there was that Taylor Swift McDonagh interview when I pulled that one. By the way, I think this one's low key because you think about it and you're like, oh yeah.
And literally,
I take it that's a song.
It's a Taylor Swift song, Andy. Oh, God. Men will literally cut their fingers off before going to therapy.
True.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, but who are you really going to go to, like, the therapy? I mean, the only real therapist they have is the part-time priest.
Yeah,
exactly. That is,
and you can't even accuse the priest of having gay thoughts. Like,
what kind of world do we live in?
The priest is like, all I have are gay thoughts.
Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Banshees of Inisherin. Please follow the show. That's Ludwig and Borfofen over there. Is Moving Extravaganza. He's representing the show, logging all the stuff we do. I am the emotional support donkey, Conan Neutron. I am logging all the stuff, highbrow, midbrow, populist. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge if you feel so inclined. J. Andrew, Fingers of Death World, the cop puncher, as he's known on the street, is watching all the weirdest stuff. So you don't.
Feel like he's not the first person to do the 5 Fingers of Death that was cop puncher, but I don't know.
It's what it is. He's watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe you can. I'm not here to judge. Either way, he's doing it. 30% Irish down there is also 100% lazy when it comes time to our Letterboxd. But Christina's on Letterboxd as well. You should follow her. Should encourage her to do it. Eileen Jones is far too busy to be on Letterboxd. Far too busy.
If she's on Letterboxd,
she's too busy hanging out with Frances McDormand and Joel Cohen, apparently.
That's my life.
I was gonna say she's just giving them away for free if she's on Letterboxd.
Exactly. She certainly is. But of course, we are now going to go to Fingers of Death, J. Andrew Fingers of Death World, the Cop Puncher. Please take us away with the plugs, my man.
All right. Right now, you are watching us on YouTube, so please do the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And the big ask is watch the video until the end. You get a great Conan Neutron song, and that allows us to have other viewers find our content.
That sounded like Oprah for a second. You get a Conan Neutron song. You get a Conan Neutron song. Everybody gets a Conan Neutron song.
I only cut off 4 fingers before remixing
it. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep bothering you.
Andy, why can't you leave me alone? I'm just trying to
get the bass levels. It's still too loud. It was. That used to drive me crazy.
Well, we're also on Twitch, so do the Twitch things, throw some subs. We're hungry. We want those subs, so send them our way. Now,
delicious.
Yes. No. I don't know what you do on Twitch, so do the Twitch stuff. Yes.
Thank you, Fargos. Hi, howdy.
We are
do the Twitch stuff. That's what the ask was.
Do the Twitch stuff.
Hey, if you're on Twitch right now,
do the Twitch
stuff. It's the YouTube mafia, the Twitch mafia going head to head.
All right.
Hey,
I need better notes. Christina, let's talk.
I heard he left the platform and now he's doing YouTube stuff. You got to get him back. All right. Threaten to cut his keyboard.
You're more like cut
off keys on the keyboard. Yeah, exactly.
It's like he wakes up with a webcam in his bed and the webcam.
With the USB cords cut.
What's next, Andy?
You can find us on multiple social media sites: Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So please follow Movie Night Extravaganza on all of those sites. That way you can find out the next time we're live and we're doing this ridiculous show.
Yes. Which is pretty consistent. But yeah, follow us anyway.
Yeah, follow us anyway.
Sometimes Forrest does cool little reels. He cuts shorts of the show. It's if you think this show is funny, you'll love it. If you don't bother.
Well, where are you watching?
That's
are you
1 minute.
watching it?
Yeah, listen, if you don't think this show is funny, that's 1 minute closer to death. So
exactly.
Hey, and if you're watching us, please leave a comment and let us know.
Oh yeah. That's the ask. Right.
I'm curious about this. Why are you watching us?
I'm not curious about that at all.
But we have a Patreon, and with the Patreon, you by becoming a member, you can have access to all of our after parties.
Yeah, the only way that you can fucking leave a hate comment is if you join the Patreon, and then you can
then you can just obliterate us with hate comments.
Yeah, we will actually read the hate comments then.
I'm gonna make him an offer of subs he can't refuse.
You come to me on the day of my live stream.
You come to me on the day of TwitchCon, and you ask me for a favor when I'm putting on this whole panel.
What's next, Andy?
I think you are.
Fantastic.
You have a great show called Protonic Reversal.
Did you have to check your notes for that? That's amazing.
our next our co-host Conan. Conan Neutron.
Conan Neutron.
Jimmy Neutron. His name's Neutron. Something.
It's a particle thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it says here you have some friends that you're not telling people about.
Protonic Reversal. Ivan Julian of Richard Hull and the Voidoids was on this week. Sideman for Matthew Sweet. He was in Shriekback for a little bit. He played in The Foundations, Build Me Up Buttercup, as like a young man. Really interesting dude, really interesting episode. That's what it was this week. This coming week, I have Rose Marshak of Poster Children, who wrote an incredible book that's I do not have remotely near to me, but it's really great. I'm reading it, which is saying a lot in this day and age because I feel like my reading has been destroyed by COVID and streaming services. But yeah, Protonic Reversal. That's the name of the show.
Yeah, you don't have to check your notes to remember that. And you can go to...
No, it turns out I've done it for like almost 9 years. Turns out I can remember the show. It's crazy.
It's funny.
Sometimes I forget the name of it. Sometimes I'm like, Movie Night Extravaganza? What's the...
Play Like a Man is the name of the book. My Life in Poster Children is the subtitle, and Rose Marshak's incredible, and I'm really looking forward to that episode. She's a powerhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. You can get all of your Conan Neutron music needs met right there. You can get it in various forms too. You can get records, you can get CDs, you can get digital files. Sorry, no cassettes or 8-tracks.
Not unless someone else wants to pay for it. I ain't doing it. Also, latest single, Cry Bullies, features art by Cop Puncher over there.
I'm inspired by my Twitter.
And now available not just on Bandcamp, but on Spotify and all the stuff we don't see a dime from. Yeah. So
yeah. Or you see like fractions of
fractional pennies. Pennies, as Steve
but maybe one of these days you will get a dime.
Yeah, I mean it's more than some get. I shouldn't complain, but whatever. It's on all the things I don't like as well as the thing that I do like that we actually do see money from. It's $1, people.
They say
it's
trying to make $1 out of a dime, something like that.
Precisely.
And make sure you check out Christina's Twitch show. Anything coming up, Christina?
Well, I was just hanging out with Dan from the web on his Power Report, which was a lot of fun. And then
I'm surprised you didn't hang out with Destiny.
I know, right? I would not have been prepared to debate Destiny tonight, so I'm good.
But you have your finest AC/DC shirt on. I think that gets you in the debate mindset, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I approve.
I'm on a highway to hell.
I'm a legit fan. I'm not trying to run anything. Especially the Von Scott era. Anyway.
And then tomorrow we're gonna go over like the history of like torture devices. Yeah.
What? How was that like topic roulette? How did you figure that one out? Like, what was?
Well, Bailey Sari does a Dark History podcast, and she talks about different things. So, like her most recent one was going over actually the minimum wage and the history of worker strikes, like railroad strikes.
We'd like to pay you less, but we're legally not allowed to. Right? Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, oh wow, cool. It's like as if a railroad strike. I'm like, gee, I wonder if that's happening again. Anyway, so so we're going over the history of torture devices tomorrow.
Nice.
We're gonna watch that.
So that's gonna be Saturday, and you're like, awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And of course, oh, what just happened? I lost the note. My notes disappeared. But also, buy Christina coffee at ko-fi.com. Coffee.
Coffee 2012. Yep.
Wait a minute. You guys can say that usually, but we can't sing After Party Forever. You just said, get out of here.
Yeah. He didn't say it. Andy didn't say it. So
you know what? You're right. I didn't. I kind of got sidetracked.
Moment passed.
Yeah. It's fine.
You're too busy losing your notes on how to say my show name.
And of course, we got Eileen from Jacobin magazine, so please check out her work there and check out her podcast, FilmSuck.
It's great.
See, I was checking my notes before, so I.
Our upcoming episode is going to be good. We're dealing with women's cinema today by talking about the movie Women Talking and 80 for Brady.
Oh,
those
interesting.
two together, I think.
I'm not familiar with 80 for Brady.
What about 80 for Brady? Oh, I haven't even watched it yet. It looks so awful. I have to go see that.
Yeah,
it's really I'm gonna suffer for my.
I saw a standee for it when I saw Women Talking, and I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, that one I've seen. So that's gonna be.
Yeah, so did I.
Women should talk less.
maybe a little.
It's Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field. And
so you got to tease it for Patreon. Say, should women talk more or less?
More or less.
Oh, you're right. You're better at this than me, definitely. Yeah. If we're gonna talk like this, I'd say less.
And they're trying to. I think these like I said, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field are trying to like have sex with Tom Brady. I think, or something along those lines.
Yeah, they're going. It's based on a true story of four elderly women fans who traveled hundreds of miles or thousands of miles to go see Tom Brady. Everything about it is so loathsome and awful.
I have no interest in this.
It sounds like a product.
I like the football guy.
But the interesting thing is, it's a follow up to Book Club, which also had 4 elderly actresses, and it did huge business. So that's why we have this new movie. This is actually you can get older women apparently to go to theaters.
Yeah. What are these broads up to? Oh, they're chasing after Tom Brady.
Why watch 80 for Brady? We can go spend like Valentine's Day with your boo and see Titanic in theaters for the 25th anniversary.
That's so true.
Or watch this episode for what is it? A glass
And then you
of-
guys get in a fight. You guys get in a fight on the way home, and you're like, he could have fit on that door, and she's like, dude, you missed the point of the movie, and you're like, she could have fit on that door. I'm sorry, she kind of fucked him over. How is this a
proved
movie?
it. Even
This
James
movie is
Cameron was
anti-men, and then you sleep on the couch. It's the whole thing.
Oh my god, Fargo, seriously? My mods are out of control, guys. They say the weirdest stuff. Now
All right,
when Sam Cedar comes on.
So that stream's happening on Saturday, right? And oh wait, no, we're on Eileen's. So Eileen, FilmSuck's great. Yeah, like I said, it's one of the only shows I listen to about movies. Most of them are terrible. That one's good.
Oh, thank you.
And where can people
And this one, obviously.
And this one, of course, is also very, very good. Yeah, exactly. No, mostly they suck. I agree. Mostly
They're horrible, like just like ear cancer.
Yeah.
Most of them.
But since we're on Eileen, final thoughts.
Hey, we got one more plug. We got one more plug.
Oh,
one more plug on.
One more plug, because this is Oscar month. Makes me think of my friend Eric Dresden, who took his own life. So if you're out there hurting right now, please be aware. You can call or text 988 from your cell phone or home phone. We can't text from your home phone, but you know. The national hotline number is 1-800-273 8255. If you're trans and dealing with this, the number for you is 1-877 565-8860. And there's also a Trevor Lifeline for LGBTQ youth. Yeah, LGBTQ youth. Yeah, that's what I wrote down. And that's 866-488-7386. And finally, if you're a veteran, you have a number too. That's 1-800-273-8255 and press 1.
All right, there you go. I was trying to think of a way to surreptitiously bring up that Forrest Icon is still the prosecutor from Argentina in 1885, but there's really no way to do that for such a serious thing.
Yeah, we should have a banner for with the numbers on it and stuff for Tuesday.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. So Eileen, tell us your final thoughts on Banshees. Anything that we didn't get to?
Step over my
God, I forgot it. I'm supposed to, I don't have any final thoughts other than we need more quality animal acting in movies. So this is, and it's been building steadily. So I think, Nope had great horse acting. This EO thing sounds like it's fabulous. So, why are we bothering with humans to a certain extent? Move on to animal cinema. I think that's my
supposedly socialist film critic Eileen is calling for humans to be completely removed.
Just take them away.
Do you think
they
she's
can be
going
on the
for AI?
crew?
No, she's not going for AI. She's going for
the hunted from now on.
It was a good run, people. It's all about miniature donkeys now. We really did. We honestly did.
Christina?
Yes. An excellent film about quiet quitting a friendship. Those are my final thoughts.
I think you if you watch backwards, like further backwards, you know what I mean? Like I feel like you probably would have been trying to quiet quit that for a while, and like not get like the guy's not getting the hint, so he's finally like, you know what, I'm just gonna straight up quit this friendship. Like there's nothing quiet about Patrick. That's all.
Exactly. That's part of the problem. Yeah.
But Conan, final thoughts.
This is an absolutely wonderful depiction of adult male friendship, legacy, loneliness, isolation, the need for solitude, and the company you keep. The premise is very simple, but execution manages to be both devastating and frequently hilarious, which is very Irish. And it regroups the In Bruges dream team. And this is one of the great surprises of the year for me. I did not see this coming at all. Like the fact that you have two lifelong friends on this remote island, and the friendship ends, and that's the conceit of it. That's fantastic. It's such a simple concept. It's amazing. We haven't seen 1,000 movies like this. Melancholic is often overused as a descriptor for film, but I think this actually totally applies here. And that's present along with a really strange, affable sweetness and charm. I think it's incredibly well acted, especially by Colin, who only knows a himbo beforehand, and has really come into his own as an incredible actor. All the principals are fantastic. The dark humor is at top dollar best. It's very dry. If you're into that kind of thing, this is a film for you. And honestly, like I said, one of the best films I've ever seen about the complicated nature of friendship. And
one thing that Martin McDonagh said is he feels like people are afraid to actually delve into sadness, like in filmmaking, and like his main goal was to delve into like something that wasn't just that wasn't like, oh well, maybe it's sad but it's lighthearted at the end, or maybe it's sad.
It's not despair porn. That's not like sadness to the point of like whatever Saw is to horror.
Yeah, it's not like The Road.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, again, which we refuse to cover on a block of someone like, I don't want to see that, and Andy, you're like, I don't want to see that again. Yeah, it's a bummer, right? And this is one of the reasons why it works is it gets across these incredibly complicated feelings of sadness, and everybody's nuanced and complicated and has their own story, and they're the hero of their own story, and there are no right or wrong. There's just a really messy amount of humans doing stuff on a very small island together.
All right, Andy, final thoughts.
I gotta say, like, I watch a lot of terrible movies involving like weird diseases, which is not great for the pandemic. But this actually is the first truly great pandemic movie about like the isolation that we all feel, and kind of captures it in a way that I think is.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I'm not gonna lie. I was
You know what? Me either.
And a great one is Wolf Outbreak 5 from China. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Wolf Guy is great. No,
yeah, Wolf. But no, it's really about number 4 though. 5 doesn't really lose the plot.
Yeah, but anyways,
Avian flew over the cuckoo's nest.
But yeah, no, this kind of captures the isolation of what we've all just gone through, and in a way, we were all in our little small islands. Fortunately, I know we on this show had the advantage of being able to come on here and actually talk about stuff we love with friends. Not everybody actually had an opportunity to do something like that, so it's been hard for people, and I hope that nobody's cutting off fingers because they're just annoyed by somebody. That's terrible. It's terrible, but also it reminds me that I think I have to rethink my my grandmother's stance on hating the Irish. My grandmother hates the Irish so much that she wears orange on St. Patrick's Day to piss off the Irish, and she might be right because this finger chopping business is something that more Irish people do than perhaps
Maybe this is why Irish people didn't like this. They're like, we're trying to get around this stuff, the finger chopping stuff. That's not what we're about anymore.
We stopped that in 1923.
All right, I might have 9 fingers, but I was born like that.
I like that you're trying to get around your grandma's predisposition for something insane about an ethnic group. But yeah.
My final thoughts, and we're gonna go to an after party in a little bit, but my final thoughts are much like 2023, it's nice to know that in 1923 nobody wanted to work anymore.